celebrate here your presence as we honor some remarkable citizens of the United States of America. They served their country at a crucial time, and their sacrifice is a lasting example of patriotism. U.S. Marines they were, pilots who flew planes with unique names: Corsair, the bent-winged bird; the Dauntless, the Avenger. And as the poet Kipling said, they changed their skies above them. Today, O God, in your presence, we offer our gratitude for those few who took upon themselves the commitment to a nation worthy of their service. They are fallen heroes who cause us to remember what another poet said. They say, we leave you our deaths, give them their meaning. We were young, they say, we have died, remember us. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
If I can ask you to remain standing for the raising of the official colors at the monument. This will be done by the Santa Barbara Sea Cadets. All three flags, the American flag, the California flag, and the United States Marine Corps flag, permanently enshrined in the monument. My honor to introduce to you Wolf Thielman, senior and appointed to the United States Air Force Academy, currently a senior at Dos Pueblos High School.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to introduce to you David Gonzalez, who will be singing the Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
It's my honor honor to introduce to you this afternoon Karen Ramsdale, our airport director here at the City of Santa Barbara. Welcome, Karen.
Welcome to the dedication of the Santa Barbara Airport World War II Memorial. We have a number of local officials I'd like to recognize, and I'd like them to stand and for you to hold their applause till I get through acknowledging each one. City of Santa Barbara Mayor Marty Bloom, City of Santa Barbara Council Member Roger Horton, officer in the U.S. Air Force, Vietnam, City of Santa Barbara Council Member Dale Francisco, City of Santa Barbara Council Member E.F. Alconi, and City of Santa Barbara Council Member Doss Williams. Airport Commissioners Bruce Miller, Dolores Johnson, Scott Tracy, and John Clark. City of Goleta Mayor Roger Aceves, Council Members Margaret Connell, and Ed Easton. Santa Barbara County Supervisor Salud Carbajal. Santa Barbara County Supervisor Janet Wolf, represented today by Karen Quimby. State Senator Tommy Strickland, represented today by Mike Stoker. State Assemblyman Pedro Nava, represented today by Hillary Blackberry. Thank you. This beautiful memorial and its contemplated space was designed by David Black, landscape architect, and the granite obelisk and benches were supplied and installed by Carnival and Lore. Now, Mayor Marty Bloom will present a proclamation from the City of Santa Barbara.
Well, thank you, Karen, and what a wonderful day this is. It's absolutely a beautiful day, but also a very good day for us right before Memorial Day to be honoring our history and to be actually celebrating it in such a wonderful way. I have a proclamation here, and I'm just going to read parts of it. It says, "We are grateful for the contributions of all local residents who served honorably alongside their fellow Americans during World War II. Many members of our community ultimately gave their lives to protect the freedoms that we enjoy today. The city has honored some local aviators who perished in World War II with airport streets bearing their names. The United States Marine Corps constructed and operated the Marine Corps Air Station here in Santa Barbara at this site between the years of 1942 and 1946. Countless pilots and crews from across the United States were trained and deployed from the Marine Corps Air Station here for combat in the South Pacific. The selfless deeds and sacrifices of all World War II veterans propelled the United States and its allies to victory. This monument has been constructed to honor our local aviators who perished in World War II and to recognize the contributions of all the men and women who served in the squadrons assigned to Marine Corps Air Station in Santa Barbara. So today we are dedicating this memorial, and we call upon all the residents of the city to join me in remembering and honoring all Americans who served, died, and supported our military during World War II. Thank you so much.
And next I would like to introduce Santa Barbara County Supervisor Salud Carbajal. And after your U.S. Marine Corps, that's what I thought.
You know, as I was arriving, I seen all these military personnel here, and then seeing General Lopez, the hair on my back started sticking up, and I was afraid I was going to see my drill instructor come out of one of these bushes and tell me how out of shape I am and how I need to get with it. As a Marine and having attended UCSB as well, it is with great pride that I am here today celebrating the tradition of the Marine Corps, but more importantly, this wonderful World War II memorial that memorializes those Marines, aviators, who paid the ultimate price for our freedom and the protection of our Constitution. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and my office, I'd like to present a small certificate celebrating the dedication of the Santa Barbara Airport World War II Memorial and honoring the memory of the local aviators and the Santa Barbara Marine Airport Station Squadron here at the airport. Ms. Ramsdale, it is with great honor and pleasure that I present this to you.
We gather here today to dedicate this monument, not to glorify war, but to recognize the defining event of the 20th century and a generation of Americans who made an overwhelming effort to preserve the freedoms we enjoy and often take for granted. During World War II, over 12% of the nation's population served in the armed forces, compared to about 1% today. 18 to 35-year-old able-bodied men who were the heart of our farm and factory workforce were in the armed forces. American industry came to depend on a huge influx of workers, most of whom were women, which were engaged in the enormous task to support the war effort. Each week, shipyards launched a new ship, and aircraft factories produced over 100,000 airplanes a year. The nation's farms were feeding us and our allies, and 50% of our economy was going towards the war effort. By war's end, there were 1 million American casualties and over 400,000 people died. I have been asked why this memorial, why at the Santa Barbara Airport. The airport has a rich history dating back to the 1920s, with World War II being one of the most significant periods. The airport today is not so different in appearance than it was as a Marine Corps air station hastily constructed to train pilots to fly missions in the Pacific Theater. The airport streets, which were identified by letters of the alphabet for the utility of a military base, were renamed after the war for the local aviators who gave their lives during World War II. About 10 years ago, as we were planning the future of the airport, it became apparent to me that the redevelopment undoubtedly would result in some airport streets being decommissioned, and the names of the aviators whom the city had honored would be forgotten. It was then that the idea for memorial took root. About this time, I got a letter from a man in San Diego named David Peck. He told me and sent me a very thick history of his uncle, who was from Santa Barbara, was an aviator who lost his life during World War II, but was not recognized on one of the airport streets. And that's when we started to become aware there were about 24 of those individuals, aviators, who lost their lives during World War II that weren't recognized. So it gave me even more impetus to go forward with the project. Our vision was twofold: to create a permanent place to honor and recognize the local aviators who gave their lives during World War II, and to honor the Marine squadrons that served at the Marine Corps Air Station Santa Barbara during the war. Let's just step back in history for just a moment. In 1941, with the purchase of land in the Glida Valley, Santa Barbara fulfilled its vision to build an airport so vital for future economic vitality. Just 10 months later, the United States issued a declaration of war and soon began mobilizing resources at home and abroad. The U.S. government looked to construct military bases at strategic locations, particularly on the Pacific coast. Soon the Navy Department was negotiating a lease for the city's airport land and buying additional land to build a Marine Corps air station to train pilots for combat missions. Officially commissioned on December 4th, 1942, the Santa Barbara Marine Corps Air Station was completed with administration, storehouses, maintenance buildings, and squadron hangars. Facilities that provided recreation and housing for the Marines were built on a nearby bluff, now known as UCSB. At its peak, the station housed about 500 officers, 3,100 enlisted men, and 440 women Marines. These Marines came to Santa Barbara from their hometowns all over the United States. A total of 58 Marine squadrons trained at Santa Barbara during the war and served in the Pacific Theater. Squadron nicknames such as Black Sheep, Wolfpack, Flying Corsairs, Flying Deuces signified the camaraderie among squadron members as they trained and were deployed to their dangerous missions. Squadrons also returned to the station from overseas for recreation and refresher training. Medal of Honor recipient Major Joe Foss at one time served as commanding officer of the squadron and later as a flight training advisor. Santa Barbara County was one of the thousands of communities across the nation whose citizens were on the front lines of the conflict or engaged in jobs that supported those in the conflict. At the same time, the Marine Corps Air Station construction was going full speed ahead. Local men and women were enlisting in all branches of the armed forces. They left lives of most young people, local jobs, their first car, their girlfriends, college applications. High school yearbooks captured their hopes and dreams. Betty Stein planned to become an airline stewardess after graduation. Earl Corville to study electrical engineering. Rex Eccles, agricultural college. James Fowler to attend UCLA and become a linen rancher. Jack Harris to become an army surgeon. And Frederick Lopez, like many young people his age, was undecided about what he wanted to do. They gave up opportunities to do the job they had been called to do, but they did not come back. 264 residents of Santa Barbara County lost their lives during World War II. 49 were aviators that we honor today. In 1948, the Santa Barbara City Council passed a resolution naming the airport streets after those fallen aviators. So today we dedicate this memorial in honor of those aviators that put their lives in peril and those that lost their lives so that future generations could enjoy the freedoms on which our country is founded. Thank you.
At this time, we wish to acknowledge any and all aviators who served at Marine Corps Air Station Santa Barbara who are here today with us. May I ask you to please stand where you are so that we may recognize you. But we do wish to acknowledge all those men and women who served with the Marine Corps Air Station at Santa Barbara. If there are others with us now, would you please stand so that we may also recognize your presence with us today? Anyone? Finally, we would ask those in attendance who are family members of those who served here at Marine Corps Air Station Santa Barbara, please stand where you are so we may recognize you. Family members. Thank you for coming. Wow. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Brigadier General Frederick Lopez, United States Marine Corps retired. Representing the United States Marine Corps League, Santa Barbara Detachment 024. Please join me here, General Lopez, at the microphone. Brigadier General Lopez is going to share with us about the role of marine aviation.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. You know, the organization of the Marine Corps really hasn't changed since pre-World War II, right up to today. It's not too much different from when it was back then. It really consisted of a triad of three important functions. You had the ground, that was the infantry. You had the air, which is our air support, and then you had logistics, which is the combat service support. Each one functioned together to make the Marines the success that they are. Now, the close air support, or the close air support function of air is what was the primary function here of training at the base. It was very, very important. It allowed the Marine Corps to be able to go on an island hopping campaign, because if you think about it, when we went into the Pacific, we didn't have an England to base our aircraft at, or later on Sicily to go into Italy, and or Norway, something like that. We had to go in expeditionary. We had to go in with our own Air Force, our own ground, and our own logistics. So the air support was the key part of that. Now, close air support is very important in that These are this is the function of the Marine Air that gets right in close with the guys on the ground and helps them out and destroys the enemy. It's much more accurate than it is naval gunfire. It's pretty good relative to artillery, and you can carry a heck of a lot of ordnance on some of these airplanes that went in. We had in World War II a number of different functions in our close air support. We had the VMS, which was the Corsair, and later on the Hellcat. You had the squadron bombers, and that was the Douglas Dauntless, and you had the TBS, which is the TBF Avengers. All did that close air support function. Now that's not necessarily what's needed today. We don't need the TBS or the SBDs, because at that time we were fighting off an enemy that had ships and had alternate bases across the Pacific, and so those are the targets that our Marine Corps went after. We also had an air threat of the Japanese Zero and the Japanese Navy and their airplanes, and the Marine aviators had to fight that as well as on the ground. So the units here really performed an important function for the Marine Corps. After Tarawa, people looked at what the function of the Marine Corps aviation was doing and saw that we really weren't getting into close air support in airplanes that we needed. So what the Commandant of the Marine Corps and what the Chief of Naval Operations decided to do was to generate or to develop escort carriers, which would carry our Marine Corps air support, our airplanes, to come in and help, so they could get right in close to the battle. So there was 4 carrier squadrons specifically designed to do this function that were trained here and made it into the Pacific. One of the other functions that I think is pretty interesting was we had 4 Marine squadrons, VMF 511, 512, 513, and 351. They began their training in January of 1944 for what's called Operation Crossbow, and it was also known as Project Danny. And this is the attack of the V-1 launch sites in France with Tiny Tim rockets. Well, later on that project was canceled, and these aviators, highly trained, went off to finish their training in Mojave and then went into battle. Like I said, the primary fighter that was of the day that the Marine Corps had was the Corsair. But later on, in about February of 45, they started introducing the F-6F Hellcat, a wonderful airplane by Grumman. And that was because, number one, the Corsair, we had a lot of Marine aviators coming right from the training command to Goleta. And the Corsair was a little bit for them to handle right off the bat. And since we had a lot of Hellcats and a lot of Corsairs were already on the CVEs, then we started training on the Hellcats, but it didn't go too much longer. So close air support, very important. It was very important for our island hopping campaign, for the amphibious forces, and that's why it was needed, and that's why we were so successful. The last thing I want to say is that this dedication and this memorial is very personal to me. For 2 reasons. Number one, I'm a native of Goleta, or Santa Barbara and Goleta. My father grew up just right across the street over here. He worked here. He flew AT-6 trainers, AT-6 techs in here as a civilian instructor. There was a small plant that was here at one time that built the dive brakes for the SBD Douglas Dauntless, and he was a machinist with that organization for a while. But just as important, we talked about the streets along here named after favorite sons of Santa Barbara and Goleta who were killed in World War II. Well, it's no coincidence that one of the streets across the way here is named Frederick Lopez, and that was named after Frederick P. Lopez. And he was a good friend of my dad's. They were both boyhood friends for a long, long time. And when he died in World War II, when I was born, just before the war ended, I was named after him. So, this is my legacy.
We also know and acknowledge that along with Marine and Air Corps pilots, there were Navy aviators as well as Army aviators that were here at the base, and we recognize their sacrifice and their service. Colonel Stephen Winters, the Vice Commander of Vandenberg Air Force Base and 30th Space Wing. Are you with us, Colonel Stephen? Stephen Winters? Awesome. Welcome, sir. It's good to have you with us today. Thank you for coming. If I could also have Commander Charles E. Huff, U.S. Navy, Operations Officer at Naval Base Ventura County. Are you with us, Commander Huff? Welcome. Good to have you with us, sir. Lieutenant Colonel Bogey, Deputy Operations Officer, Ventura Naval Base in Ventura County. With us as well. And I just wish to acknowledge anybody that we may have forgotten. Please understand that as we put something like this together, it's like inviting your family to the dinner table. You hope they all show up, and when they show up, you may not recognize some of them. But we want you to know that we're proud of you. We're proud of your service to our country, and we are grateful that you're here with us today. Please stand with me at this point as we welcome the United States Marine Corps Color Guard for Fort Hueneme, California. Please be seated. I'm honored to introduce to you Billy Rokenberg, who is the Senior Class President of Santa Barbara High School. Something that we're going to do today is we have asked several people to participate in the dedication of this monument. We thought it was appropriate to go to our local schools because during that time of war, that's where we went to find these men and women, these brave people who came to serve our country.
Today we dedicate this monument with the reading of names of those aviators from Santa Barbara County who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our nation during World War II. Reading the honor roll are Luz Cordova, ASB President from Santa Barbara High School, Aya Miyazaki, ASB President from San Marcos High School, and Blas Uribe, ASB President from Dos Pueblos High School.
During World War II, 264 Santa Barbara County residents and 400,000 nationwide gave their lives to protect America's freedom. In their honor, we have constructed beautiful memorials across the country to ensure that the legacy is remembered.
The young men and women we honor here with this memorial are not forgotten. Their sacrifice is not taken for granted. We have a duty to them to live our lives in a way that honors them.
It falls upon the succeeding generations to honor their legacy, not with memorials, ceremonies, or tributes, but by fulfilling our duties to carry on their noble mission.
We must remember, especially today, that behind each of the 49 names engraved on this memorial was a young man or woman who gave their life to protect the freedoms we all enjoy.
We are a nation blessed with many privileges, but as Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said, those who have long enjoyed such privileges as we enjoy forget in time that men have died to win them.
As we dedicate this monument to our local aviators of World War II, we do so not only in spirit of remembrance, but also with the intention of extending our appreciation to all those who have sacrificed to protect our freedoms.
The names of the fallen airmen: Clyde M. Adams, Dean A. Arnold, Philip H. Bates, Wallace Becknell, Francis L. Bapel,
James E. Burns, Ernest T. Armand, Gerald Cass, Cecil P. Cook Jr., Harold A. Corver,
Robert E. Coverstone, Francis R. Dibley, John L. Donaldson, Rex A. Eccles, Norman S. Firestone.
James L. Fowler, Augustus N. Griggs Jr., William Harshbarger, Cyril O. Hartley, John W. Hayes.
Francis F. Ebel, Robert L. Kieser, Frederick P. Lopez, David C. Lowe, Andrew R. Dupont,
Robert K. Marks Miller, Earl A. McAllister, Fred C. Mikulski, Nick J. Mesa, John E. Miller.
William G. Moffett, Arthur P. Mullenhour, Felix L. M. Moon Jr., Robert W. Newman, Richard Oshler Jr.
William T. Owens, Clifford J. Peck, Jack Perez, Jack D. Rickard, and Kenneth E. Roberts.
Robert C. Sawyer, Stanley H. Soto, Betty P. Stein, Parker G. Thomas, John R. Troop.
Edward G. Worrell, Alan H. Wade, Jean K. Wilbert, and Sam N. Reed.
Carrying the Honor Guard wreath this afternoon is Lieutenant Colonel Stokes, Army ROTC Military Science Unit, University of California at Santa Barbara. Presenting the monument wreath is Captain Kenneth Linder, U.S. Marine Corps retired, representing the VMF 214 Black Sheep Squadron. Kenneth Linder is escorted by Brigadier General Frederick Lopez, United States Marine Corps retired. First Lieutenant Ken Linder was assigned to the Marine Corps Air Station, Santa Barbara, as a Corsair pilot in the famous VMF 214 Black Sheep Squadron. The squadron deployed aboard the USS Franklin CV-13 on February 4, 1945, to join an ongoing naval operation off the coast of Okinawa. On March 19th, the Franklin was hit just as Ken Linder's Corsair had taken off from the ship's deck. First Lieutenant Linder was credited for shooting down the Japanese bomb struck the Franklin. We welcome Captain Kenneth Linder to the Others laying wreath at the monument today are the ASP presidents, who've just read the roll call of the list of the names of the men and women who served and gave the ultimate sacrifice. Jerry Strom, representing the disabled American veterans. Robert Gordon, representing the veterans of foreign wars. Fernando Reynoso, representing the AMVETs. Larry Del Castillo, representing the Korean War veterans. Jim Waxel, representing the American Legion Post, number 49. William Stewart, representing the Vietnam Veterans of America, also representing the Military Order of World Wars, William Stewart. Bernard Martinez, representing the Military Order of the Purple Heart. Donnie Yee, representing the Marine Corps League. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Kwan, U.S. Air Force, retired, representing the Military Officers Association of America. Bill Kaplan, representing the American Legion Post from Carpinteria, post number 62. Lorenzo Martinez, representing the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Carpinteria Chapter 5656. Our 21-gun salute this afternoon is provided with 3 rifle volleys by the 1st Memorial Honors Detail, veterans conduct military funerals and honors throughout Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. They are part of the first United States volunteers. One step forward, march. Right wheel, march. Detail, halt. With blank ammunition, load. Ready. Aim. Fire. Ready. Aim. Fire. Ready. Aim. Fire. Cease fire. Freeze and burn. Detail, port, turn. Right, face. Right, face. Left wheel, march. Detail, halt. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, this is that part in the ceremony where we wish, like clockwork, everything was doing what it's supposed to do. I'm supposed to be directing your attention towards the east in Santa Barbara for the flyby of a Von Chat's Corsair. And we just had an aircraft land, as you can see our airport is accepting and departing commercial traffic. So the flyby of the Corsair is actually done at the convenience and the safety of our air passengers who use Santa Barbara Airport. Which is probably a good thing if you would like to know, right? In a moment, though, the Corsair that will be flown by John Mahoney, and it's part of the Planes of Fame Air Museum in Chino, California. This is an independently operated nonprofit aviation museum that's dedicated to the preservation, perpetuation, and exhibition of historic aircraft. Today's flyby is dedicated to the following aviators from Santa Barbara. Men and women, courage, faithful service, and sacrifice are not forgotten. to thank you for coming and making this dedication so meaningful. But I do ask that you please remain standing for the reception of our color guard from the United States Marine Corps.
Here it comes again, guys.
Santa United States Air Force in the 30th Space Wing, Vandenberg Air Force Base, for our benediction. Captain Santa.
Almighty Father, as we come to the conclusion of this historical celebration, our thoughts of gratitude, as always, return to you. We hold this memorial service in memory of our heroes, the fallen Marine aviators who have given their lives, the ultimate sacrifice for our democracy and freedom, which we so richly enjoyed. We entrust them to your care. It is with humble hearts that we stand here, feeling unworthy, while being more worthy than ourselves have been led to rest. Surely, we will continue to utter their names and cherish their memory, so that their courage will be forever remembered. Let them know that our nation is eternally grateful and perpetually indebted to them for the sacrifice that they had made. Finally, inspired by their example, may we set aside selfish ambition and dedicate ourselves to the noble cause that terrorism and oppression might cease, freedom might prevail, and dignity and honor might reign. Then we shall know that the heroes we honor this afternoon will not have died in vain. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Before we close the ceremony, I wanted to thank a small group of people who gave guidance, encouragement, and support during the design of the memorial and the planning of today's dedication ceremony. I don't know if any of you have heard of a group of Marines called Perry Squadron that meets at Perry's, our local watering hole. And so I'd like to think of this as Karen's Squadron. Karen's Marines. Ernest Sanchez, Corporal, U.S. Marine Corps. Bill Redding, U.S. Marine Corps. Ken Wender, Captain, U.S. Marine Corps, retired. Pete Shank, Corporal, U.S. Marine Corps, Commandant of the Marine Corps League. John Blankenship, Navy pilot, Vietnam, Pierre Clison's Veteran Museum and Library. Frederick Lopez, Brigadier General, U.S. Marine Corps, retired. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank my staff who stuck with me. Jeff McKee, who I assigned this to a few years ago, I'm sure he thought I was crazy. But he, I'm sure, has learned and is a Marine Corps expert now. Leif Reynolds, who is the project engineer on the project, Terry Gibson, Lynn Houston, and Tim Watton, who were an integral part of putting together our ceremony and making everything as lovely as it is today. And our airport maintenance staff and airport patrol that made the setup today possible. I want to thank you for coming. We do have some light refreshments, and we invite you to join us Also, for participants of the program in today's ceremony, we would like to have you come to the memorial for some pictures. And also, after the ceremony, I understand that the Corsair and the thank you. She said will be at the former Forest Service ramp off Firestone Road in the northwest corner of the airport. So you have to go over on Hollis. So thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate it.
I mean, anything, team.
Right here in front. Bird, right here. I'll be right here. Right over a little bit more to the right, Bird. Right here, maybe.
What different types of jump? Well, I've jumped 5 and 7. I have 7. I jumped at C-47, going to college first. And then up until 1948, 47.
You know, this is why we need to communicate. You know, come to our meetings and go, hey,
He's like, oh.
hey, my machine crashed.
One thing with the Santa Barbara that one time, and that was it.
No, but this is why, you know, if you come to the outfit,
Jim Walker. He won't pay his dues because he says he's a life member. And so after many changes back and forth, I just gave up.
It's going to be worth a lot of money one day.
How got you doing there?
Our pleasure. Thanks. All right. Thank you. Great job.
Absolutely, it'd be an honor.
Great job.
Come on, gentlemen.
Come on. Yeah, you want to be in the middle?
Yeah.
There we go.
Two.
I do.
Yeah, that helps.
Pretty girl.
That's true.
Could I get one just alone? Would that be all right?
Absolutely.
Superstar. You don't want to be involved with.
Perfect.
Pocket, fix your pocket, fix your that's
(1902), the dawn of a new century. With the support of President Theodore Roosevelt, the Navy League of the United States is formed to provide a powerful voice for strong sea services, which are vital to the nation's liberty and prosperity. With more than 200 councils and tens of thousands of members worldwide, the Navy League is the most dedicated civilian advocate for the U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and U.S. flagged merchant marine. Headquartered just outside our nation's capital, a major part of the Navy League's vital mission is educating the public, local and national elected officials, and policymakers about the importance of maintaining strong and effective maritime forces. The annual Sea, Air, Space Exposition, largest maritime expo of its kind, provides a forum where industry and military decision makers exchange ideas and information to underscore the importance and necessity of strong and vigorous U.S. naval and maritime forces. Navy League's nonpartisan advocacy programs deliver critical information about the needs of the sea services and its men and women in uniform throughout the halls of Congress, with Sea Service program briefings for members of Congress and key staff. The annual Maritime Policy Statement highlights the needs of each of the sea services to ensure that they have the proper training and equipment to carry out their critical mission. The Navy League's monthly magazine, Sea Power, provides news and in-depth articles that focus on the important role of the U.S. Sea Services to the defense of our nation. Whether at home or abroad, the Navy League provides support to our men and women of the sea services around the world. Local councils adopt ships and units, providing morale and welfare support and assistance to their crews and their families. Navy League's prestigious awards recognize outstanding individuals for their leadership and accomplishments within the sea services and maritime industry, promoting leadership, professionalism, and morale. Homecoming ceremonies and ship visits are special events organized and sponsored by local councils, as are ship christenings and unit commissionings. With the help of individual and corporate members, the sea services become integrated into the local communities they serve and protect. In addition to providing support today to the men and women serving at home and abroad, the Navy League always looks to the future to today's young people and tomorrow's leaders. Scholarship programs provide financial assistance to the dependents and direct descendants of Sea Service personnel. And Navy League-supported youth programs, such as the Naval Sea Cadet Corps and Navy and Marine Corps Junior ROTC, give thousands of young people the opportunity to develop leadership skills, test their limits, and perhaps prepare for a career in one of the sea services. The need for a strong, vital sea service, recognized by Theodore Roosevelt in 1902, is no less today. The challenges facing our nation have never been greater. More than 100 years later, the Navy League continues to answer the call. Your support makes a difference to our men and women of the sea services who serve today and will serve tomorrow in support of American sea power. As one Secretary of the Navy said, the sun never sets on the Navy League.